we're talking about one of our favorite subjects.
Chicks, man.
Yeah,
Chicks.
crazy chicks and unsavory poon activities.
Oh, there's lots of that. Tonight, we want to know your stories.
Hmm.
So, what are the most egregious lies that women have ever told you to get out of trouble, what have you?
Well, I myself, when I was in the military, there was probably at least one or two dozen instances where one of the soldiers was getting divorced,
Oh, yeah.
and the soon-to-be, you know, ex made up some bullshit,
Naturally.
and about half the time it ended the guy's career.
Well, one of the most common reasons women lie and cause trouble is when they cheat.
Uh-huh.
So they have to deflect.
Wow. Well, let's see. Steve, he was going through a divorce, and she
Oh,
made this
yeah.
accusation that got him, bounced out at 12 years. He
I
had a
remember.
top secret clearance, spoke 5 languages, was one of those 30-pound brain, whiz bang individuals. Gone.
Gone.
Yeah, right in the Bermuda Triangle, man.
Wrecked his whole life. Hey, we got MGTOW Mando.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys about the first one that I had during my time on active duty.
Oh, boy. Active duty. This ought to
There
be
we
good.
go.
I was stationed in Germany as a medic, specifically an OR tech.
Mm.
And there was this young woman who was stationed in the same hospital unit I was. We hit it off, got along great. Ended up, we were kind of sort of going out, and I say kind of sort of because I'm one of those rare individuals who still believes in waiting until marriage.
Uh-huh.
And we were planning a trip to Berlin for a Christmas leave. Well, she said something during our planning that basically had a record scratch to a stop. It'd be so much nicer if my husband were here. Bear in
Oh.
mind, we'd been going
Oh
out
my-
for 6 months.
Oh, my God.
Whoa.
Yeah, she said that, and just like in every one of those idiotic rom-coms, the soundtrack in my head just screeched to a stop, and I was like, wait, what?
Wow.
I never told you I was married? No.
That's exceptionally, and that's very common.
No
that they do
ring,
that.
no ring tan mark? Like,
Nope.
wow.
Yeah.
Nope, it had been at least 3 months at the time I met her since she had last worn the wedding band.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, I did meet her husband when he did eventually come over to Germany, and her husband was a stereotypical cuck.
Ah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
So
But-
was she doing this with his blessing?
I have no idea if he knew about it or not, but given everything I knew about her and having met him, I was raised with one of these things where you don't kiss and tell, and you don't. I don't know how to say this and be YouTube friendly.
You don't step out.
That's a nice way to. You don't dig into somebody else's salad.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
you go. I like that.
Especially if it's a tossed salad.
Well,
And now, fortunately, the most she and I did was some heavy makeout sessions. But
uh-huh.
it was one of these things where it took a real long time before I was willing to risk trying to date again.
Oof.
And that particular lady ended up ghosting me while I was in the middle of chemical recon training.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah, listen, I was Dear John twice on active duty. It's just par for the course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't got one Dear John letter by the time you get to E5 in your rank, sergeant rank, you're doing it wrong.
Oh, we got Thumper.
Uh-oh.
Thumper, the sweaty fat guy.
Okay, I was active duty, stationed in Charleston,
Okay.
having a good old time down there. And I meet this guy and this chick, right? And she's like, my car won't start because, there was a bolt broken off in the starter. It was a little Sunbird, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a bolt broken off, and she said, well, can you come look at it? I'm like, all right, I'll come look at it. And this is during the day,
All right.
So I worked night shift, and my nights off were Tuesday and Wednesday. This is going to play a part later. Okay, so I go look at her car, and it's like middle of the day on a Thursday. Now, it should have been apparent to her. But anyway, I look at it, and sometimes you can back the bolt out, sometimes you can't. Well, this time I couldn't, and I'm like, well, I can't get to it without certain tools and easy out and drill and all this crap, and get it on base and put it on the lift. If so, I said I can't fix it. She's like, well, why don't you give me one of your cars? Because I had 2 Firebirds.
What?
And I'm like,
no.
give you one of my cars? Are you insane?
And you never met this person before?
No.
Wow.
Right?
Nothing like a tall order, yeah.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah, she found out my name from one of the other guys on base.
Uh-huh.
And she knew I was on base, Air Force guy. So she calls the cops a few days later when she kept just haranguing me, calling me, and being like, give me one of your cars. And I'm like, no.
Wow.
I'm not going to give you, even the Firebird that I spent $1,000 on, let alone the one is now my street strip fun toy.
Uh-huh.
So I get a call that I have to go to the orderly room and take my ID. And usually what that means
You're getting put under custody.
Well, usually what it means for me, because my social ends in a 01, is that I'm getting piss tested.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Because random my ass. I constantly got piss tested.
Uh-huh.
So I go up there and they're like, well, you're under arrest. And I'm like, what?
Lovely.
Because, it's the middle of the day. They called me at home. So I came in, put my uniform on and went in. So I'm sitting there going, why am I under arrest? And they're like, well, we'll get to that. Right.
Okay.
So eventually we go through all this rigmarole and everything. And I got my commander, the wing commander, the big base guy and everything. And they're all like, so why'd you do it? And I'm like, do what? And they're like, well, there's this woman that lives off base, and she says that you had your way with her. And I'm like,
what?
Yeah. What? Who?
Naturally.
Huh?
Uh-huh.
There were girls off base that I was seeing. And I'm like, well, which one are you talking about here?
All right.
Was it the one that works at Taco Bell? No. Okay. So not the Taco Bell drive-through girl. Was it the one that lives over on the other side of town? No, not her. What color was she? White woman. All right. So how old is she? Oh, about 50. And I went, 50? And I'm like, okay, I know who you're talking about now.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I had nothing to do with her. I went and looked at her car, and I couldn't fix her car, and then she wanted a car from me because she knows I have 2 of them, right? One that I brought back from Germany and one that I bought while I'm fixing the one that I brought back from Germany.
Uh-huh.
So they're like, well, you're under, you can't leave the base, but you don't have any days off from now on until we get back to you. So I worked every night, right?
Uh-huh.
So just, that's what they do. They just make you work, keep you out of trouble.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. It just kind of sucks, but I didn't really have much of a life at that point anyway. Yeah. E4 on base. Yeah.
I'm very familiar.
Yeah. So they talked to the city cops and the county sheriff and everything. And they say, yep, she said it happened on, Friday night at like midnight. And I'm like, I was at work. I can prove I was at work.
Oops.
Yeah.
So
naturally
they go back and tell her he's got an ironclad alibi for Friday night. Well, maybe it was Saturday night.
Yeah.
Okay. Saturday night at midnight. And they come back, and I worked. I got Tuesday, Wednesday off. My name is on paperwork at work that I can show you. Where I was building pallets and shit.
Uh-huh.
Right. So then she tried Sunday night. And then at that point they said, well,
just
we know
your
you're
story.
just like process of elimination in this.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to believe him that you're trying to extort a vehicle out of him.
Winning.
So
damn. Yeah,
I was still restricted to base for another month just to keep me from going and retaliating against her.
Fair enough.
That's
And
just
I was
amazing.
like, I don't want anything to do with her. She will never see me again. Guaranteed.
Wow.
Because I'm not running into this. And the city cops, they still had a hard on for me, but the commanders and everybody said, no, he's never did it.
He's got a fucking alibi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quit white
Ironclad.
knighting for the crazy fucking hag.
Who clearly
I go to work at 10:30. I show up. I'm on the roster. I have work all night. Building pallets.
Uh-huh.
Sean Fry's in the chat here says women who make false allegations should face the same amount of time the guy would have received if convicted. I've been saying that for years, and I think it's 100% spot on.
Yep.
Yep.
You
I don't
have
think
to
they're ever gonna
stop.
do it,
You
though.
have to start discouraging this shit because it's way too common, especially now.
Yep. And that's why I have gone to my patented method of one, never looking at a chick's car. But if I hook up with a chick, and actually like get busy with her, I make it so that she thinks that she's breaking it off with me. And the way I do that is I start asking for, spicy fun times. And I might pay like a small bill, like her phone bill or something, if it's really bad.
Uh-huh.
Because you make breakfast for her, you ask her for, spicy times, and you pay a bill for her, and she's going to be like, oh, he's a beta.
He's
and then
simping.
it dries up for you instantly. And then you can just like fade away.
It works, yeah. I mean,
Oh,
shit,
it's awesome.
even on How I Met Your Mother, Barney started pulling the Ted Mosby whenever he wanted a chick to go away. Just,
Yep.
second date, I love you. Wait, come back. Yes. Jeffrey Paul, how you good, man?
What are you two butt weasels doing?
Just throwing shit around.
Hey.
One day I'm going to get it in that fucking teacup.
I was married to this lady for 20 years. And towards the end of our marriage, she was doing some business trips. Know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Business trips.
trips. Well, she took this trip. I was living in Dallas, Fort Worth area at the time, and I was living in a little mid-cities place called Arlington. And she was doing a business trip in Fort Worth, which, if you know, is only 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
Well, and she calls me up and she says, "Hey, I'm not going to come home." I said,
Oh.
"Why?" She goes, I'm staying at the hotel tonight for this business trip."
Yeah, she's going to get room service.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I'm like, "You're going to stay at the hotel and you're 15 minutes away from home." Okay. Anyway, well, this is towards the end of our marriage, right?
Hey, which one is the right color? Probably this one.
Yeah, I can't hardly see what you're doing, but I'll just go with it.
All right.
So, here shortly after that, we go to get divorced, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, she starts getting involved with some different guys. And I just hear about it through the grapevine, nothing big. But then all of a sudden, she ends up married.
Okay.
And so I go, who is this guy? Well, my brother-in-law at the time was like, "Man, this guy's shaky. This guy's shady. This guy's not, there's something wrong with this guy. He's full of shit, I said, "Okay, well,
probably why
I don't
she
know
wanted
him. What am I supposed to do?" Well, she moves. Well, I get news about a year ago that he's involved with the mob.
Ooh.
And he's not only involved with the mob, the Soprano type, if you will.
Uh-huh.
And he has been doing prison time for some insurance fraud.
She thought she could tame the bad boy.
I don't know if that's what it was or not. I to this day
I'm
don't
sure
understand.
it had something to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, then I get a call from my brother-in-law's son. It says, "Hey, your ex is dead." And I'm like, "What?"
Holy shit.
They go, somebody went into their house, shot him in the head. When she came running back, the story I got, that she came running back down the hall to see what was going on. They unloaded on her, shot her in the stomach. As she turned around, they shot her in the back, and then they hit her in the head.
Wow.
Triple tap.
Then, so they killed both of them. From what I understand, they had a safe full of tons of money in it. It was
Undeclared.
gone.
Yep.
So we know there was more than one. And I always said to everybody, if this is the safe me and her had, there wasn't one person involved because you couldn't move it. It was too heavy. And then they set the house on fire to try to cover up all the evidence.
Uh-huh.
And burned part of the house down. They found both bodies in the one in the living room, one in the bedroom. They found her beer sitting on the coffee table.
Huh.
So they know she was just sitting on the couch drinking a beer. They said the guys, whoever it was, came in the back door, unloaded on both of them. Then they caught 2 people trying to extort them for money. And apparently the husband had been screwing around with some other woman. From what I understand, may have even knocked her up.
Oh.
And they were paying. He was taking cash and extorted them for $25,000 to keep their mouth shut, so my ex didn't find out.
Wow.
But she is now gone.
That's
She's worm food, huh?
so we're gonna got Matt W up next on the call list.
So I got a good story about actually what caused me to get the red pill suppository.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
Let's hear it. I gotta hear this one.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. All right. So back in, 2017, I could say 2017 through 2019. I was in college, right? I was in my local college. I go downstairs and I should not have went downstairs, right? But I just left my math class, went downstairs, and I see this young brunette with blue eyes sitting there. I'm like, oh, that's how it starts. Trust me. I have a thing for those. And when I saw that, I couldn't resist. So I went over to her, spoke to her. I got her name, what have you, and kicked it off from there. We started, started going out. All right. Everything was good. Nothing was really rocky. So what caused the whole, I guess, dynamic shift was she had a guy friend. And I knew about it, but me being the blue-pilled cuck, I allowed it to happen. Yep, that's where it starts. This is where I knew I should not have.
Here we go.
Yep,
As soon as I heard it, I'm like,
this is where it begins. So, all right. And then I worked at a local grocery store during that time just to scrape up some money so I could pay for my college tuition, pay for the gas to go back and forth to there.
Mm-hmm.
So I live in a small town, so there's a local bar and the shopping area where the grocery store was. So that night, I used to work the overnight shift. It paid better, and nobody was in the store. So it just made it a lot better to stock shelves at night. So I called her that night. I was like, hey, I'm going to get ready to go to work. And she said she's going to go to bed. I was like, okay, I'll see you in the morning. Okay. So skips on, 3 a.m. comes around, and the bartender, because the shopping center and the bar are in the same shopping center, bartender comes in and says, hey, it was like, what's going on? He was like, oh, Matt. I was like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? He's like, because he knows me, because I go there to get a drink every day after work when I was able to drink.
Uh-huh.
He comes up to me, he's like, hey, man, I saw your girlfriend. I was like, really? Because he knows her because we would go there together, because it's a restaurant and bar. So we used to have our dates there. So he knew us. He was like, yeah, she was with a dude. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, they described him to me. So the way he described him, I was like, oh, that's probably just her friend. Like that's her friend. And that's who I knew. Mm-hmm. The way he described it. I was like, okay, yeah, not really big problem. So next morning comes. I knew he was like, he was like, dude, he's like, I got to tell you what happened. He was like, this guy got a little bit drunk and he said to me that I know that she has a boyfriend, but I'm going to go back to my house with her and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I mean, he told me things that I've never even tried. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're talking about some fucking gymnastics type stuff. The way he described me, I almost threw up. I almost had to go throw up.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, so then the next morning I was just upset. The next morning I called her and I called her out and I was like, hey, were you with what's his name last night? He's like, how'd you know? It's like she gets defensive. I was like, listen, did you go back to his house and did all these things with him? Before she had a chance to answer that, she hangs up the phone and takes me off everything, off of the social media and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she threw away a 2-year relationship. I was going to get ready to ask her to marry me right after college. I know, right? That's another thing, too. I'm never doing that ever again.
Yeah, good.
I took that engagement ring and brought it back, and I bought myself an AR with it.
Yeah!
Yeah!
Yeah.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the meat caser box.